My name is Sean Stevens, and I'm the Executive Director of Oregon Wild. And Oregon Wild is a statewide conservation group. We were founded in 1974, and so we're almost 40 years old now, and we work to protect Oregon's wildlands, wildlife, and waters. I grew up here in Oregon, and from the time I was a young kid with my brother and sister and parents, I explored all the great places in Oregon, from hiking around Mount Hood to rafting the Rogue River with my grandparents. And then as I got older, I sort of started to understand more about the environment and threats to the environment. I found myself really wanting to get involved in the environmental movement, and I found Oregon Wild and started working there, and that's really what Oregon Wild is all about, protecting all these amazing places that I got to explore and that were protected for me when I was a kid, and I feel the responsibility to do the same for future generations so that there are still those awesome places to go out and experience. One of the big things that we're going to be focusing on now and in the future is a campaign called the Crater Lake Wilderness Campaign. Wilderness is the highest level of protection that Congress can give to any piece of public land. It's the gold standard. And it takes an act of Congress to do it, and it takes an act of Congress to undo it, which has never happened, and that's why we work for that level of protection. Oregon is known as a green state, but I think many Oregonians would be surprised to hear that we've only protected 4% of our state as wilderness, and that's compared to Idaho with 8%, Washington with 10%, and California with 14%. And so we have a long way to go, and 500,000 plus acres in the South Cascades around Crater Lake, that's an area where we can make a big dent in our wilderness deficit. Some of the challenges that we face in doing our work, and certainly in the Crater Lake campaign, is just building that groundswell of support. As many people know, Congress doesn't do anything quickly or easily, and so we really have to build the public demand for these wilderness proposals so that our congressional delegation can go back to DC and say, my constituents demand this, and we have to protect this because it's such a special place. You know, photography and video is essential to what we do at Oregon Wild. There's a famous Wallace Stegner quote about enjoying wilderness even if you can't get there. You might never make it to these far off places because they are remote, but that doesn't diminish their value at all as important places for wildlife, for climate change, and for us, just to know that there are places out there that we haven't yet touched. So when it comes to photography and video, that's the way that we can take people to these places without them having to get there on their own. We're lucky to have ProPhoto helping us put on our photo contest every year. We're going to be in our 9th year this year, and we get amazing photos from across the state of places that people know and love and have been to, and to places that they haven't gone to and might never make it to, but they get to see this amazing spot through the lens of some talented photographer. When I think of rewarding moments working for Oregon Wild, I always think back to 2009. We spent a long time working on a Mount Hood Wilderness campaign that finally passed through Congress and was signed into law by President Obama. 125,000 new acres of wilderness on the Mount Hood National Forest. There's a spot on the Pacific Crest Trail as you're hiking up towards Twin Lakes where you step over from what is not protected as wilderness to what is now protected as wilderness. And the first time that I went back there after the bill passed, I was leading a group of Oregon Wild hikers, and we basically were able to say, hey, here's the line, and on this side, it's wilderness and protected forever. And that's a pretty powerful and awesome thing to be able to know that this place is going to be like that. Not just for the group that you're with, but for future generations. People that want to get involved with Oregon Wild, one of the best ways is to come on a hike with us. We lead hikes year-round, snowshoe hikes in the winter, wildflower hikes in the spring, a whole bunch of hikes across the state in the summer, and then we have mushroom hikes in the fall. Of course, you can find us online at www.oregonwild.org. And you can sign up there for our email list, which is the best way to track what we're doing, whether it's finding out about the next hike, finding out about an urgent threat to a special place that we're working to protect, and how you can get in touch with a decision maker to influence that process. And we're also, of course, on Facebook at facebook.com/OregonWild.